Rick stood before the ancient star map, her three hearts beating faster as she traced the paths of galactic exploration with her finger. The holographic display illuminated her blue-tinted skin, casting shadows across the empty archive room. Something wasn't right about these patterns, and she knew it. For centuries, her people had believed that the great expansion across the galaxy had been random, each species choosing their own path through the stars. But here, projected in front of her, was proof of something else entirely. "Computer, overlay the exploration routes of all known species," she commanded, her voice barely above a whisper. The hologram shifted, thousands of lines appearing in different colors, each representing a different alien civilization's journey through space. Rick stepped back, her eyes widening. There it was, a perfect gap in the exploration paths. Every single species, from the ancient builder race to the newest spacefaring civilizations, had avoided the same region of space. A spiral arm of the galaxy remained completely untouched, like a dark island in a sea of light. She quickly checked the coordinates. In that unexplored region, there was a small yellow star with a system of planets. The third one caught her attention, a blue world with swirling white clouds and vast oceans. "Why?" she muttered, reaching for her datapad. "Why would every species avoid this one area?" The door behind her hissed open, and she spun around to face Elder Tress. The old archivist's gray skin had grown pale with age, but his eyes still held the sharp intelligence that had made him legendary among their people. "You're here late, young one," he said, walking slowly into the room. His eyes moved from Rick's to the holographic display, and his expression changed. "Ah, you've found it. Elder Tress, why isn't this in any of our history books? A pattern this clear can't be coincidence. Every species, even ones that never met each other, they all stayed away from this region. Why?" The elder sighed, moving closer to the display. "Some questions, Rick's, are better left unasked. Our ancestors marked that zone as forbidden for a reason." "But what reason?" Rick's pressed, her scientific curiosity overwhelming her respect for authority. "Look at these readings. The star is stable. The planet has liquid water, a breathable atmosphere. It's perfect for life. So why did everyone avoid it?" Elder Tress touched a control panel, and new information appeared around the hologram. Ancient symbols from a dozen different civilizations surrounded the forbidden zone. "These are warning markers," he explained. "Every species that came near that region left them. They all say different things, but the message is the same. Stay away." Rick studied the symbols, her translator working to decode them. "The dark zone," she read. "The place of shadows. The forbidden stars." She looked at her mentor. "These are just superstitions. We're scientists. We should investigate." "No," Elder Tress cut her off sharply. "The Council has forbidden any exploration of that region. Even research into its history is discouraged." He gave her a meaningful look. "You would do well to focus your studies elsewhere." But Rix barely heard him. She was already copying the data to her personal device, her mind racing with possibilities. If every species in known space had avoided this one region, there had to be a reason. And if that reason had been important enough to frighten even the mighty builder race. "I understand, Elder," she said quietly, but her hands never stopped moving across the controls. "I'll return to my regular studies." Elder Tress watched her for a moment longer, then turned to leave. At the door, he paused. "Rix," he said, not looking back. "Some doors are better left closed. Some questions are better left unanswered." Then he was gone, leaving Rix alone with the glowing map and its mysterious empty space. She looked up at the hologram one last time, at the small blue planet spinning slowly in its lonely orbit. Whatever secret that world held, whatever had frightened thousands of species away over millions of years, she was going to find out. "Computer," she said, "begin deep archive search. Show me everything we have about the dark zone." The archives were cold and quiet in the middle of the night cycle. Rick sat surrounded by floating screens, each showing different historical records from various alien species. Her food sat untouched beside her, long since gone cold. She hadn't moved from her spot in hours. "Display record 47B," she mumbled, her tired eyes struggling to focus. A new screen appeared, showing the log of an ancient trading ship. The captain's words scrolled across in an old dialect. Day 215. Changed course to avoid the dark zone. Added 3 months to our journey, but the crew agreed. No one goes near that place. Not after what happened to the builder ships. Rix sat up straighter. This was the 10th mention of the builders she'd found tonight. She pulled up another screen, this one containing fragments of builder text. The ancient race had vanished millions of years ago, but their warning beacons still orbited stars near the Forbidden Zone. "Computer, translate builder warning beacon signal," she commanded. Red text appeared. "Danger. Stay away. They are not like US." Rix's hands shook as she added this to her growing collection of evidence. Every species, from the ancient builders to modern civilizations, had independently marked Earth's region as forbidden. But none of them explained why. A soft beep interrupted her thoughts. Someone was accessing the archive entrance. Quickly, she saved her work and closed the screens, leaving only one harmless star chart visible. Captain Mole, head of archive security, walked in. His uniform was perfectly pressed, despite the late hour. "Still here, young Rix? Your dedication to." He glanced at her screen. "Basic stellar cartography is impressive." "Yes, sir," Rix said, trying to keep her voice steady. "Just finishing up." The captain nodded, but his eyes lingered on her workstation. "Interesting, because our systems show you've accessed restricted files about the Dark Zone." Rix's heart skipped a beat. I was just curious, sir. The exploration patterns are classified." He cut her off. "By order of the High Council itself." He moved closer, his voice dropping. "Do you know why they're classified, young one?" Rix shook her head. "Because every species that tried to study that region too closely disappeared." He tapped one of her screens, bringing up an old ship's log. "The trading vessel Starseeker, 300 years ago, diverted from their regular route to study the Dark Zone. Never seen again." He pulled up another record. "Research ship Morning Light, 50 years ago, disappeared while trying to map the region." Another screen. "Explorer vessel Dawn's Edge, vanished just last year." Rix stared at the records, her research suddenly taking on a darker meaning. "But what happened to them?" Captain Mole shrugged. "No one knows. No distress signals. No debris. They simply vanished." He turned to leave, then paused. "The Council doesn't forbid things without reason, young one. Remember that." After he left, Rix sat in silence for a long time. Then, slowly, she began opening her hidden files again. Something about this didn't make sense. The ships that disappeared, they had all gone looking for something dangerous, something hostile. But the ancient warning spoke of something else. She pulled up the builder beacon signal again. "They are not like US." Not a warning about monsters or weapons. Not a threat of destruction. Just difference. Rick started a new search, this time looking not for stories of terror, but for records of actual observations. What had the ancient races actually seen when they looked toward Earth? The answer came from a forgotten probe's data, buried deep in the archives. It showed a simple image. A blue planet, teeming with life and creatures that looked up at the stars with wonder in their eyes. "They're not monsters," Rix whispered. "They're just alone. They developed without any contact, any influence." She leaned back, understanding finally dawning. That's what everyone's afraid of. A species that evolved in complete isolation. Who knows what they might be capable of? She quickly began gathering her evidence. The Council needed to know the truth, even if they didn't want to hear it. Rix's hands trembled as she inserted the ancient data crystal into her reader. The small device hummed softly, trying to access information that hadn't been viewed in thousands of years. She had found the crystal hidden in a forgotten section of the archives, marked with symbols she'd never seen before. The screen flickered to life, showing a captain's log from one of the first ships that had ever approached Earth's solar system. The date stamp made her gasp. It was from before her own species had learned to walk upright. Final log entry, the translation read, "We should never have come here. The beings on the third planet, they're different from anything we've seen. Our scanners show they're advancing faster than any species we've encountered. They discovered fire yesterday. Today, they're making tools. By tomorrow, who knows?" Rix leaned closer to the screen, her heart's racing. "Computer, show me the visual records." The screen changed to show grainy footage of Earth's surface. Early humans moved across a grassland, working together to hunt, build shelters, and create tools. But what caught Rix's attention was their eyes, filled with curiosity, innovation, and most importantly, hunger for knowledge. "They devour light itself," the ancient captain's log continued, "not with their mouths, but with their minds. They see, they learn, they improve, faster than should be possible. We came to study them, but they're already studying us. Even now, they watch our ships in the sky and wonder. They point. They draw pictures. They think." The footage showed humans pointing at the alien ships, creating cave paintings of strange lights in the sky. They weren't afraid. They were fascinated. A new alert popped up on Rix's screen. She had set her computer to search for similar records across all species databases. Now it had found something. Dozens of somethings. "Display results," she commanded. Multiple windows opened, each showing similar encounters. Different species, different times, but always the same story. Ships approached Earth, observed the humans, and left in what seemed like fear. But as Rix read more carefully, she realized it wasn't fear of violence. It was fear of humanity's potential. One record from a scientific expedition stated, "The creatures learn too fast. They see a problem once and create 10 solutions. They fail and try again, each time better than the last. They should have taken millions of years to reach their current state, but they did it in thousands. What will they become if left alone?" Another report, written just a few centuries ago, warned, "They've mastered fire, farming, construction. They build great cities without any guidance from advanced species. Their isolation has made them innovative in ways we can't predict. We must maintain the quarantine." Rix sat back, understanding flooding through her. The galaxy hadn't avoided Earth because humans were dangerous. They had avoided Earth because humans were unpredictable. Every other known species had developed under the subtle influence of others, following similar patterns of evolution and advancement. But humans, alone in their corner of space, had created their own path. She pulled up recent scans of Earth, taken by automated probes from the edge of the solar system. The blue planet was now surrounded by satellites. Radio waves carried their messages into space. Their first primitive spacecraft were venturing out from their world. "They're ready?" Rix whispered. "They've done it all on their own. And now they're reaching for the stars." She quickly began preparing her presentation for the Science Council. The quarantine of Earth needed to end. Humanity's isolation had made them different, yes, but that difference could be exactly what the galaxy needed. Their unique way of thinking, their rapid advancement, their endless creativity. These weren't things to fear, but to embrace. As she worked, a small alert appeared on her screen. One of Earth's space probes had just passed the orbit of their outermost planet. They were coming, ready or not. The only question was, would the galaxy welcome them or continue to hide in fear of their potential? "This is madness," Captain Morn said, pacing the bridge of the research vessel Starseeker. "We're breaking every protocol in the book." He stopped to look at Rix, who stood calmly by the main viewport. "The Council will have our heads for this." Rix touched the data crystal hanging around her neck, containing all her research about Earth. "They'll thank us once they understand what we found. Look." She gestured to the main screen, where a string of ancient warning beacons floated in space, still broadcasting their messages after millions of years. The beacons formed a line marking the edge of the quarantine zone. No ship had crossed that line in recorded history, until today. "Begin scanning," Rix ordered. The crew looked at Captain Morn, who sighed and nodded. They had come too far to turn back now. "Scanning," the science officer reported. "The beacons are incredible. Their power sources are still at 80% capacity after millions of years. The builders meant these warnings to last forever." Rix moved to the science station, studying the readings. "What are they broadcasting now?" The officer adjusted some controls. "Same message as always. Warning. Restricted zone. Unauthorized entry prohibited. They are not like us." "But look at this." Rix pointed to a new reading. "The beacons aren't just broadcasting warnings. They're collecting data. They've been watching Earth all this time." Captain Morn joined them at the station. "What kind of data?" "Everything. Temperature changes, atmospheric composition, radio signals." Rix's voice trailed off as she stared at the screen. "Captain, look at their technological progression chart." The display showed a line measuring Earth's technological advancement over time. Unlike the gentle curves showing other species' development, Earth's line shot upward at an almost vertical angle. "That's impossible," the science officer whispered. "No species develops that fast." "They do when they're isolated," Rix said, "when they have to figure everything out for themselves. No guidance, no shortcuts, just pure innovation." A sudden alarm blared through the bridge. "Energy spike," the sensor operator called out. "Massive power readings from the third planet." "Show me," Captain Morn ordered. The main screen lit up with an image of Earth. The blue planet glowed with city lights on its night side. Satellites orbited in complex patterns. And there, rising from the surface, was something new. "Is that?" The captain leaned forward. "A fusion drive." Rix checked the readings. "Yes, they've mastered fusion power. And look, quantum communications, artificial intelligence, clean energy." She turned to the captain. "They're advancing even faster than the ancient records predicted." "How long until they achieve faster than light travel?" someone asked. Rick studied the progression charts. "At their current rate, months, maybe weeks. They're right on the edge of a breakthrough. And when they make it..." She left the thought unfinished. Captain Morn stood silent for a long moment, watching the busy planet below. Finally, he spoke. "Send a message to the council. Tell them everything. They need to know what's coming." "Sir." Rix looked at him questioningly. "Humanity isn't contained anymore," he explained. "Look at them. They're about to step onto the galactic stage, whether we're ready or not. The council needs to make a decision. Do we welcome them as equals, or do we treat them as a threat and risk making them into one?" Rix began preparing the message, adding all her research data. As she worked, she watched Earth through the viewport. A new light was rising from the surface. Another test launch, another step forward. "They're beautiful, aren't they?" she said softly. "A species that built itself up from nothing, that looked at the stars and decided to reach them on their own." The captain nodded. "Yes, and that's exactly what makes them so terrifying to some. They're proof that everything we think we know about development, about progress, about what's possible, might be wrong." The observation room of the Star Seeker was silent except for the soft hum of scanning equipment. Rix and the science team watched the screens with growing amazement as data poured in from Earth's surface. They had positioned their ship behind one of Earth's natural satellites, what humans called the Moon, to avoid detection. "Look at this," Dr. Vale said, pointing to one of the screens. "They've solved their energy crisis in just 10 years. It took other species centuries to figure out fusion power, but they did it in a decade." Rix studied the readings. "And they're not stopping there. Their scientists are already theorizing about new forms of energy we haven't even considered. The main screen showed various scenes from Earth, cities powered by clean energy, vehicles that could drive themselves, machines that could think. But what caught everyone's attention were the space programs. Multiple nations were racing to build better ships, to reach further into space. They compete with each other, Captain Moore noted, entering the observation room. That's different. Most species work together from the start. The competition drives them to innovate, Rix explained. Look at their history. Every major advancement came from trying to outdo each other. But when they face a common challenge, she pulled up images of global cooperation efforts. They unite and become even stronger. A new alert flashed on the screen. One of Earth's space telescopes was turning toward their position. They're getting better at detecting us, Dr. Vale said. Even our stealth technology won't hide us for much longer. Rix nodded. Because they're looking. Really looking. Most species wait to be contacted, but humans, they're actively searching for others. The team watched as a small Earth probe launched toward Mars. It carried supplies for a future colony. Humans weren't just exploring. They were planning to expand. Play the radio transmissions, Rix requested. The room filled with human voices. Some were routine space communications, but others were different. Messages sent into space, hoping someone would hear them. We're here, the broadcast said in various languages. We're ready to meet you. Where are you? Dr. Vale shook his head in wonder. They're not afraid. They've never seen another intelligent species, never had any contact, and yet they're eager to meet us. Because they don't know to be afraid, Captain Morn said. Every other species was guided, warned about the dangers. Humanity had to learn everything through trial and error. It made them brave. Maybe too brave. Rix pulled up her research notes. Or maybe we're the ones who have been too afraid. Look at their entertainment, their stories. She displayed examples of human science fiction. They've imagined thousands of ways first contact might happen. They've thought about it, prepared for it, longed for it, and imagined plenty of ways it could go wrong. The captain added, pointing to less optimistic stories. Yes, but they imagine positive outcomes too. They're prepared for either possibility. That's what makes them unique. They don't just hope for the best or fear the worst. They prepare for everything. A sudden burst of energy from Earth caught their attention. Another test of their experimental faster-than-light drive. They were getting closer. The Council needs to make a decision soon, Captain Morn said. Humanity will achieve interstellar travel within months. We need to be ready. Rix watched as the energy signature faded. No, Captain. We need to help them. Think about it. A species that solved problems we never even thought to question. They could revolutionize everything. Science, technology, medicine, art. Or they could destabilize everything we've built. Dr. Vale cautioned. Change isn't always bad, Rix responded, her eyes fixed on the blue planet below. Sometimes you need an outside perspective to see new possibilities. And who has a more outside perspective than a species that developed in complete isolation? The room fell silent as they considered her words. On the screen, another probe launched from Earth, reaching further into space. They were coming, ready or not. The only question was, would the galaxy be ready for them? The emergency council chamber buzzed with nervous energy as Rix prepared her presentation. Representatives from 50 different species filled the circular room, their worried whispers echoing off the high ceiling. Many had traveled for weeks to attend this meeting after receiving the Star Seeker's urgent message. Are you ready? Captain Morn asked, standing beside her at the presentation podium. Rix nodded, clutching her data crystal. They need to understand. We've been wrong about humans all this time. The council leader, a tall being named High Speaker Voss, raised his hand for silence. The room quickly grew quiet. Young researcher Rix, his voice boomed across the chamber. You stand accused of breaking the ancient quarantine. Why have you done this? Rix took a deep breath. Because the quarantine was based on fear, not fact. She activated the holographic display, showing Earth floating in the center of the room. We've all been afraid of humans because they're different, but that difference isn't a weakness. It's their greatest strength. She showed clips from their observations, humans solving problems, inventing new technologies, working together despite their differences. Look at how they approach challenges, she continued. When they can't find a solution, they invent one. Where we see limitations, they see possibilities. Do you know why? The room remained silent, all eyes fixed on the display. Because they had to, Rix explained. Every other species in the galaxy learned from those who came before. We all followed similar paths of development, building on shared knowledge. But humans? They built everything from scratch. She showed their technological progression chart, the nearly vertical line drawing gasps from the council members. This isn't just rapid advancement, she said. It's pure innovation. They don't just copy and improve. They imagine entirely new ways of doing things, ways we never considered because we were too focused on traditional methods. But that's exactly why they're dangerous, one council member shouted. They're unpredictable. Yes, they are, Rix agreed. And that's exactly what we need. She displayed images of problems facing the galaxy, dying stars, resource shortages, ancient threats. We've tried solving these challenges our way for thousands of years. Maybe it's time for a fresh perspective. Dr. Vale stepped forward, adding his voice to Rix. In just the few weeks we observed them, we documented 50 new approaches to problems we thought were unsolvable. Their isolation forced them to think differently, to see possibilities we never imagined. Captain Morn spoke next. And they're about to achieve faster than light travel. Do we want their first experience with galactic civilization to be discovering that we've been hiding from them? Or do we want to welcome them as equals? The council chamber erupted in argument. Some members demanded maintaining the quarantine, while others called for immediate contact. High Speaker Voss raised his hand again, restoring silence. Show us their response to discovering new things, he commanded. Rix smiled and played her final recordings. They showed humans reacting to new discoveries, not with fear, but with wonder. Scientists crying with joy at breakthrough moments. People celebrating new achievements together. They don't fear the unknown. Rix said softly. They embrace it. Yes, they're different. Yes, they're unpredictable. But they're also curious, innovative, and eager to learn. We've been asking the wrong question all along. Instead of asking what makes them dangerous, we should have been asking, what could they teach us? The chamber grew quiet as her words sank in. On the display, Earth continued its peaceful spin, its cities glowing with light, its ships venturing ever further into space. The choice is simple, Rix concluded. We can continue hiding from them out of fear, or we can embrace their unique perspective and grow stronger together. They're ready to join the galaxy. The real question is, are we ready to welcome them? The day humanity achieved faster than light travel, 5,000 alien ships appeared in Earth's sky. They emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming in the sunlight, representing every major species in the galaxy. From her position on the Starseeker's bridge, Rix watched the humans' reaction through their broadcast channels. There was surprise, yes, but not panic. Instead of hiding or preparing for war, they were sending out welcome messages in every language they knew. They're hailing us, Captain Morn announced. All their major nations are broadcasting the same message. We've been waiting for you. The High Speaker's voice came through the ship's communications. Researcher Rix, you were right. They're ready. Begin the contact protocol. Rix stepped onto the teleportation platform alongside the diplomatic team. Her heart raced as the beam activated. Moments later, they materialized in a large room where Earth's leaders had gathered. The humans stood tall, showing no fear despite being surrounded by beings from their wildest dreams. Welcome to Earth, their chosen speaker said, smiling. We hoped we weren't alone. Rix stepped forward, using the universal translator. We apologize for waiting so long to make contact. We had much to learn about ourselves before we could truly meet you." The human speaker laughed softly. "You were watching us all this time, weren't you? Those signals we detected, the strange lights in our sky. You were studying us." "Yes," Rix admitted. "We needed to understand what makes humans different. And now we do. You're explorers, innovators, dreamers. You see possibilities where others see barriers." The meeting continued for hours. The humans asked countless questions, each one showing their deep curiosity about the universe. They weren't intimidated by alien technology. Instead, they were already thinking of ways to improve it. One human scientist looked at the Star Seeker's engine specifications and immediately suggested 3 possible improvements. Another examined their medical technology and proposed combining it with human stem cell research to create better treatments. "See," Rix whispered to Captain Morn. "They don't just accept new knowledge. They build on it. They make it better." The captain nodded. The council made the right choice. The galaxy needs their perspective. As the day went on, agreements were signed, partnerships were formed, and humanity took its first official steps into galactic society. But they did it their way, not as humble newcomers, but as equals bringing their own strengths to the table. Later, as the diplomatic team prepared to return to their ships, the human speaker approached Rix. "We found some of the ancient warning beacons," they said. "The ones telling others to stay away from Earth. Why did everyone fear us so much?" Rix thought carefully before answering. "We didn't fear you. We feared what you represented. The unknown. Every other species developed following similar patterns, learning from those who came before. But humans, you created your own path. You showed us that everything we thought we knew about development, about progress, about what's possible, could be wrong." The human smiled. "And that's a good thing, isn't it? Progress comes from questioning what we think we know." "Yes," Rix agreed. "That's exactly what the galaxy needs right now, people who aren't afraid to think differently." As the sun set on humanity's first day as part of galactic civilization, ships from Earth and other worlds mingled in orbit. Human scientists were already scheduling visits to alien universities, while alien researchers eagerly signed up to study at Earth institutions. Rick stood at the Star Seeker's viewport, watching it all unfold. The ancient quarantine had ended, and with it, a new age was beginning. Humanity would change the galaxy, yes, but perhaps that's exactly what the galaxy needed. A reminder that there's always another way, always another possibility, always another dream worth chasing among the stars.